think back to when you were a child, who were your friends? What did you do with your parents? What did you like? And how did you play? When I was a child, I used to do this. I'm sure many of us did. It's a very common pastime. Now, I do this. I lead a global campaign to end animal testing, empowering individual citizens to make cruelty-free choices, working with great brands to drive animal testing out of their supply chains, working with governments to change legislation, and working with the United Nations to get animals onto the agenda in sustainable development and to pass a global resolution to end cosmetics testing on animals. So that's been my journey. But most children have that innate connection to animals. They feel that sense of care and compassion. They love those animals that they share their homes with, and sometimes those that they don't. We build our values as children. We make connections with our family, our friends, our society, and our culture. We take the strands of that connection through our lives as we become adults. But for many of us, one of those strands has been broken. And that's the strand that connects us to animals. Increasingly as adults, we see animals as products for entertainment, for clothing, as research tools in laboratories, and for the food that we eat. So something has gone wrong with that connection. But what if I told you we could rebuild that connection, and doing so could be one of the greatest contributions that we could make to ending climate change? Well, I believe that we can, and that it is. So let's start with what we eat. We have a problematic relationship with the food on our plate. We employ a kind of cognitive dissonance between our care for animals and what we eat. I probably don't have to tell you about the cruelty involved in industrialized factory farming, but you may not know that changing your diet is the biggest single contribution that you can make to ending climate change. 1 billion people in the world are hungry, and yet 40% of the grain that we produce we feed to animals so they can inefficiently turn it into meat and milk for us to eat. 80% of deforestation is linked to the diet that we eat. And we know that the major problem in South America with deforestation is caused by growing soy, not for humans, but for animals. There is an issue with the food on our plate. But we're hearing more and more conversation around meat eating, around diet. We're not hearing enough conversation about the other products that we consume. Everyday products, shampoo, soap, washing up liquid. I campaign to end animal testing. 200 million animals a year are used in animal tests, and these are tests that will cause them pain, suffering, lasting harm. We may be injecting a potentially dangerous substance into them. We may be force-feeding them with a chemical. We may be deliberately mutilating them, affecting them, causing them fear and pain. What people are not aware, because this is hidden from public view, is that sadly today we are still using animal testing for everyday chemicals that go into everyday products, the products that you have in your home. And we're doing that when we know that there are better ways. We're not 70-kilogram rats. We're human beings, we have a different physiology, we react differently. And fortunately, science is bringing us some solutions. We no longer have to remove the back off a guinea pig and apply a substance to them. We can use human reconstructive skin. So there are alternatives, there are newer, better, more human-relevant ways to be testing products than the old ways using animals. So it's time now for us to remake that connection, not just for those animals, but for us and for the planet on which we live. So what are some of the solutions? It's very often difficult to grapple with the scale of the problem that we face. It can feel very disconnected. You can feel like your individual actions as a consumer can't make a difference. But in fundamentally changing our relationship with animals, we all can make that difference. So let's start with what's on our plate. So David Attenborough said recently that we must change our diet. The planet simply cannot support billions of meat eaters, and he was right. A recent study shows that actually changing your diet is the biggest single contribution that you can make to ending the climate crisis, and simply a switch away from meat and dairy can reduce your carbon footprint by 73%. This is a major change that we can all make. We're hearing more conversation about this, as I said, but there are also solutions around animal testing. This symbol is the leaping bunny. You may have seen it on products. When you see this symbol, you know that the brand that you are buying from has done everything that they can to end animal testing in their supply chain. They've opened themselves up to audit, they're transparent, they're committed to making a difference. And brands that display this symbol have traced their ingredients right back to the source. There's a lot of confusion for consumers around animal testing. Lots of products say not tested on animals. There may be 1 million different versions of a bunny. They may make all kinds of corporate philosophy claims. Very often that relates just to the finished product. But animal testing doesn't happen at the level of the finished product. We don't take a bottle of shampoo and apply it into the eyes of the rabbit. We're talking about chemical testing on ingredients. So Leaping Bunny brands have made a commitment to trace their ingredients right back to their original source, and they're driving animal testing out of their supply chain. When I first started doing this campaigning, shows my age, but 2 decades ago, it was much more a push from us all the time. There were 1 or 2 great standout brands on the high street doing the right thing. But increasingly it was us saying, please can you think about animal testing? Can we get this onto the agenda? The great news today is that situation is in reverse. More and more great high street brands are doing the right thing and coming to us, asking them to demonstrate to consumers that they're cruelty-free. This is now a really straightforward and easy step that consumers can take. You no longer have to go right across your city to the health food store to find the unique brand. It's in every high street, in every city, in every nation of the world. More and more brands are stepping up and going cruelty-free. And you can directly, with every choice that you make, every shampoo that you buy, every hair product that you use, every time you step into the shower, you can make that contribution. The question now in this environment is not whether we can make that change or how we make that change, but why not? It's time now for all of us to reconnect, to take those innate values that we have as human beings, that innate care and compassion, and make that difference. But today, not just for animals, but for ourselves, so that future generations of children can, like we did, have a planet to play on. Thank you.